What's going on, guys? My name is Wade with TechDaily, and in this video, we are checking out the brand new Xiaomi 11T. This phone was just announced today alongside the 11T Pro and 11 Lite. It's of course the successor to last year's Mi 10T. They've dropped the Mi branding, added a whole bunch of new features, including a crazy good camera, and I'm really excited to check this phone out. So I won't waste any more time. Let's just go ahead and get right into it and see what the new Xiaomi 11T has to offer. So right off the bat, this phone comes in two variations, 128 or 256 gigabytes of storage, both with 8 gigs of RAM, and 3 different color options: Meteorite Gray, Moonlight White, and Celestial Blue. Now, slicing into the box and pulling off the lid, the first thing you'll see is actually a pretty thick little packet of stuff. Inside, there's a SIM ejector tool, as well as a stack of paperwork, and an included clear rubber case for your new phone. And that's always nice to have thrown in. Underneath all that, here is the phone itself, the new 11T. I got mine in the Meteorite Gray color, and we'll take a closer look at it in just a second. There's 2 more important things at the very bottom of the package, of course. You've got a USB-C cable for charging and an included 67-watt power brick for super fast turbo charging. And with this, you're able to juice up the 11T from 0 to 100% battery in just 36 minutes. With all that stuff out of the way, here is the new Xiaomi 11T once again. And you probably saw some of the specs and features listed on the plastic wrap there, but let's dive a little deeper now and go over what's new, what's changed, and what all you get with this new phone. Physically, the new Xiaomi 11T is a pretty big device. It comes in at 6.67 inches. That's the screen size, with a full 20:9 aspect ratio. It's tall, it's wide, you've got a ton of real estate to work with for viewing your content, and up front, the screen is framed by fairly thin and relatively even black borders all around. There's a center hole punch camera cutout up top to finish it off, and overall, this is a pretty clean and simple setup. In the hand, it's definitely a lot to manage, but I know a lot of people will be a fan of getting such a huge display. Around back, the fit and finish of the 11T is a shiny, glossy plastic. It looks almost like a dark colored mirror, but actually this Meteorite Gray colorway has this sort of metallic brushed metal design if you look closely, which I really like. There's a bit of a curve and taper along the edges. The metal-like frame feels thick and sturdy. It's a dark matte finish, and all in all, the 11T still feels pretty high quality. Also, here's what it looks like just quickly with the included case on the phone. It's a really simple, flexible, crystal clear rubbery case that's just good enough to protect it. Taking a quick look around at everything else, nothing there on the left side of the phone, but on the right, you'll find the usual volume and power buttons. The power button does also double as your fingerprint sensor here too, which is nice. It's a full raised button, not like a depressed divot on some other phones, and that makes it really easy to feel for. It seems lightning quick so far, and as always, I'm just glad to have it as an unlocking method. Down below, you've got dual SIM support alongside the USB-C port for charging, and one of 2 speakers on this phone, the usual bottom firing one there, and a secondary one actually at the very top of the phone, which is really awesome. Rather than the earpiece trying to deliver that out loud listening experience, you've got basically full-size dedicated speakers on either side of the phone with, by the way, Dolby Atmos, and that's going to give you a ton of great sound coming out of this phone. It's a really great setup, and here's a quick sample so you can get an idea. Around back, this big camera module is definitely the most hyped feature, what Xiaomi calls their cinemagic, and we'll get into all that in just a second, but let me just finish off the rest of the specs and details here with this phone. The massive 6.67-inch display on this device is now an AMOLED panel, a nice upgrade over last year, that comes in at a full 2400 by 1080 resolution, and it's covered in Gorilla Glass Victus. By the way, there is a pre-installed screen protector here too. At a glance, just from my initial impressions, I think the screen looks really quite good. It's especially colorful now that it's AMOLED. You can make some adjustments to the color settings if you want, but the default profile here is particularly vibrant already. It's also plenty bright. up to 1,000 nits of peak brightness, with coinciding sunlight and reading modes to find the right balance based on the conditions. HDR10 Plus support is here as well, and it's also a 120Hz high refresh rate display, so it really has that trifecta of screen features. Not only do you get that fast and fluid feel with the high refresh rate enabled, but the screen can also reach up to a 480Hz touch sampling rate, so this display is even more responsive with your taps and swipes, and that's great for day-to-day use, but especially good for things like gaming and other apps that require speed and accuracy with the inputs. All in all, I think the 11T really has the total package when it comes to the display. It's big, it's bold, it's bright, and it's fast, and I think it's one of the best features on this phone. Inside, the new 11T is powered by relatively high-end specs. You now get the MediaTek Dimensity 1200 Ultra processor, and like I mentioned earlier, that's going to be paired with 8 gigs of RAM and either 128 or 256 gigabytes of UFS 3.1 storage. Altogether, those internals make this phone, in my opinion, a powerhouse device, nearly flagship caliber without paying the flagship price. And I think this is a device that's going to be particularly good for gaming, especially in other high-intensity apps. On the software side of things, this phone is going to ship with Android 11 paired with MIUI 12.5. It's the Xiaomi-themed Android experience we're used to seeing, but they've also made it a point to emphasize the full set of Google apps as well that come pre-installed. So you've really got the complete OS and app experience you want, depending on what your default preference is. I also generally like what Xiaomi has brought to the table with their newest Android updates, with the tweaks and add-ons. I think the phone is really smooth, it's very snappy, and pretty responsive too, and I'm looking forward to really putting it to the test in my full review, but I fully expect this device to be able to handle anything and everything I throw at it. And again, this is just another reason why the 11T I think is such a good value still. You really do get pretty high-end specs for a much more affordable price point. So a ton of value here, no doubt, no matter what it is you end up doing with your phone. Also, this big device packs in a big battery too, 5,000 milliamps inside, which I think is plenty to power not only this big bright screen, but also the higher end specs that go along with it. I'll of course put that battery to the test in my full review as well. I suspect it'll easily last a day and then some, even with some heavier usage, but paired with the turbocharged 67-watt power brick that comes inside the box, even if you do need to plug in during the day, you'll only need to do so for a couple minutes at a time. So finally, let's talk about what Xiaomi highlighted the most on this phone, and that would be the camera setup and the shooting capabilities that go along with them. Hardware-wise, the big camera module around back houses a triple lens setup, which is made up of the crazy 108 megapixel main lens, an 8 megapixel ultra wide shooter, and a 5 megapixel telemacro lens. Up front, the selfie camera is also a respectable 16 megapixel shooter, but the specs don't tell the whole story here. Inside the camera app, Xiaomi has added a ton of great shooting modes and features to really make the most out of all that hardware. All the usual stuff is here, like night mode. There's a 108 megapixel shooting option, time-lapse, slow-mo, long exposure, multi-camera support as well, HDR, and one-tap AI enhancements that'll boost the color and detail of your pictures in real time. And you can even see the difference between AI and standard mode in the viewfinder to ensure you're getting the right look. With video, the Mi 11 can shoot 4K at up to 30 frames per second. It offers enhanced stabilization, audio zoom, cinematic modes, and an AI video helper too. Overall, I think Xiaomi once again brings a lot to the camera setup on a phone like this, and I'm really interested to see how capable it is when it comes to some real-world shooting. But just given how much they packed in here, it really seems quite capable. So there you go, those are my initial impressions at least on this new Xiaomi Mi 11T. It's a big phone with a great display, powerful specs, plenty of camera capabilities, all still for a price that undercuts a lot of flagship phones out there. I think it's once again a really great value phone from Xiaomi, but what do you guys think? Is this phone something you're maybe considering right now? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to know your thoughts, of course. But hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. Be sure to follow TechDaily on Twitter and subscribe to the TechDaily YouTube channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys later.